Okay, hi class, mayong hapon sa tanan, no? And for this afternoon, we'll be learning about posting and the trial balance. So, ato lang siyang sumpayon because it's actually, posting is fairly a short and simple process. That is why we will be immediately proceeding with the trial balance. Okay, let us start with posting first. So, before we go into the accounting process itself, so posting posting, ledger, or T accounts are just used interchangeably. So what we simply do in posting is that we have our journal entries and then we simply summarize them. And how do we summarize? By summarizing them according to the account title. So what do we mean by according to the account title? For every account title na gigamit nato during the journal entries, we have the cash, we have the capital, the accounts receivable, the payable, the supplies, the inventory. We will be summarizing all of the transactions na naitabo sa isa ka account. So, take for example, cash. So, under sa cash nga account title or sa account sa cash na ledger, T account, ibutang nato ang tanan debit and tanan credit nga nahitabo sa journal entries. So, with that, I will be showing kung unsaon na siya paghimo. So again, in the accounting cycle, we're done with the transaction, we're done with the journal entries, and now we will be going over to the posting and eventually sa trial balance. But before I forget, we will have two videos. I will be recording this one continuously. However, in terms of putting it sa YouTube, I will be separating the posting and then the trial balance so that namoy time to absorb and basically digest the topic before going over to the next. Sige. So, last time, if if you're new to our channel, make sure to check our journal entries na video before proceeding here because you might not get how to do the posting and basig dili ka familiar sa mga transactions. However, if you're already familiar with the accounting process and you're just reviewing, then you can just proceed. So we have the following journal entries. So dagan-dagan na itong mga journal entries, no? And then we will proceed to the posting. So unsa ginabuhat nato sa posting? So I have summarized all the accounts nga gigamit nato for our journal entries. So we have cash, capital, supplies, equipment, blah, blah, blah. So, ubay-ubay na sila. So, again, we will be summarizing per account. So, let's have our cash first. So, we have our cash. So, ginatawag po niya siya og T account because of its resemblance to a T. Since you're using Excel, we are using two columns. Okay, so we have cash and that's the T there. So, tanan entry nga nahitabo for debit, ilalagay natin dito, the amounts only. And then for credit, the report. So, for example, this one. For our first transaction, we have debit, cash, 100,000. And then credit, capital, 100,000. So, we have cash here. The debit siya, 100,000. So, we just put 100,000 here. So, if you have dates for your transaction, you put the date here. But since in our transactions, wala may date, so direct na natin siya ginabutang. First transaction. Okay, then next, we have 8,500 credit. So, ito natin siya sa credit. Okay, and then, we have, isa pa. Okay, debit, cash, 15,000. Sunod na lang natin i-appeal. Although, you can include this one for easy tracking. So, we have 15. Then, credit, 25,000 pesos. Then, credit again, 10,000 pesos. 5, 10,000. Then 15,000 pesos credit. Debit there, sorry. Debit. And then, what else? Credit, 1,500. And then we also have the 3,000 sa baba. Yeah, 1,500. Credit, cash, debit, 3,000. Credit, 3,650. Ano lang, 3,650 credit. So after summarizing or posting our journal entries sa ang ledger, sorry, we get the total for the debit side and then the credit side. So our debit side is 133,000 while our credit side is 48650. Okay? So I want you to watch carefully. So we have two balances here, debit and then credit. So for purposes of posting, we simply deduct our credit from our debit here. So 133,000 divide and minus 48. Then, ang mabilin na is 84,350. So, we can now put this in double rule. So, we are done with postings ato ang cash. This simply means that all throughout the accounting period, so our journal entries, we were able, there is an inflow of 133,000 pesos in cash. And at the same time, there is an outflow of cash amounting to 48,650. Therefore, at the end of the period, nabinlan taog 84,350 na cash. So that's what we call summarizing in accounting. So do this for everything, for all of the account titles. Okay. And then we will get our posting balances. So isa-isahan nato ni sila, no? We're done with cash. Ayan. Then, Lee Capital. Pinahitabo sa Lee Capital. Actually, isa lang man yung Lee Capital. No? We have 100,000 credit. 100,000 credit. Then we have supplies. Happen to supplies, 8,500. Then, kabilaan supplies sa baba. I think na 3,000 debit. Else. Yun. Then, credit to 5. The next would be the equipment. So, equipment, 50,000 debit. Then, kabilaan equipment sa baba. So far, there's none. Then, let's continue. Next, the equipment, we have accounts payable. Equipment is payable 50 credit. The next Accounts payable, debit, 25,000 pesos. Then credit again, 3,000 pesos. So by posting, it's very important yung accounted for na to tanan. Because once nga naatay dili ma-transfer sa posting, then siguradong mali ang ato ang trial balance nito. Okay, so far that's it. Next would be the accounts payable, notes payable. Notes payable, ayan, 15,000 credit. Okay, so far there's none. Next would be the notes payable, drawings. The drawings. We have debit of 10,000 pesos. Then service revenue. Next one. Service revenue. We have the low ata po. 15,000 and 17,000. Both are credit. 15,000 then 17,000. Okay. So next. Doon na sa baba. Next, drawings kay service accounts receivable. Accounts receivable. So, ayan, 17,000 debit. 17,000 debit. Yung credit, 3,000 pesos. Next would be rent expense. For the rent expense, natay 1,500. Okay, debit. Then, utilities expense. Kung na saan natin tanan. Supplies expense. So utilities expense, we have 3,650. Salaries and wages, 4,700. And then we have salaries payable, 4,700. 4,700. 4,700. And then supplies expense, 2,500. Yeah, 2,500. So hopefully wala tayo nalimtan, no? Because personally, kapoy tayo magsubay kung asa pa naman. So one last look, we have the capital. I think we only have one entry here. The supplies, equipment, notes payable, drawings, revenue, accounts receivable, rent, utilities, salaries. Okay. So basically, we're done with the posting. Wala siya. Accounted for na tanan. Right? So, I've changed my mind. We'll just be continuing with our, I forgot. Natin mga accounts na rin na ay mga multiple entry. So, just like sa cash ganina, we total the debit for supplies. We have 11, and then for credit, natay 2,500. So, get the difference, and as to unsay balance sa difference, just follow unsay mas dako. So, So, more lang kang nag-add o positive and negative. Okay, so 9,000 pesos. Then, okay, let's do the same for this one. 53, then credit. Credit balance, since mas na ko siya. 28. Okay, service revenue, we have 32,000. Funds receivable, we have a balance of 14,000 pesos. Okay, so far, okay na siya. Na-out, okay na. Okay, then afterwards, so I changed my mind, no? Diretso na ta sa trial balance. We won't be, dili na ta mag-pause. Diretso na lang. So, for cash, we use this. This is the last figure. Okay, let's use another column. Okay, take note of these balances. Because these are the balances that we will be forwarding to our trial balance. So, yan. So again, review muna ha, before we proceed to the trial balance. Journal entry, we have our transactions, then we have our journal entries. The journal entries will be summarized in the posting, the ledger, or the T account, whatever you call it. Basta yung ani ang dagoy na sa mga T account. Pinasummarize na to siya per account and get the last figure at the end of the period. And after getting that balance, we will be forwarding them to the trial balance. So, na ko yung trial balance na i-andam dire. So, in the trial balance, usually ginapagamit mo og 10 or usually 12 or 14 column worksheet, depende sa inyo ang teacher. So, in Excel, it looks like this. Yan nila. So, we have the unadjusted trial balance for the first two columns. Then the adjustments, the adjusted income statement, balance sheet, closing entries, post-closing entries. And then there is a particulars. Of course, we have our account title na gipanggamit diri asa journal entries. Yan. Ano sila? However, there is a particular order in arranging our accounts. We basically start with our assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, drawings, and then expenses. And then, basta mo ito siya. Assets, liabilities, equity, drawings, income, and then expenses. And take note for assets, it is assets and liabilities, it is also according to its whether current or non-current, starting with the most liquid of them all, which is cash. So if you notice, cash, accounts receivable, up to equipment, these are assets. Accounts payable to salaries payable or accrued salaries payable, these are liabilities. We have the capital, the drawing, the service revenue, and then the expenses. So that in that specific order. So kung dili kayo ninyo kabisado, balik-balikin lang. And also, you may refer to the chart of accounts na ipagamit sa inyo ha during the journal entries. Okay, so what do we do? So buhaton nato diri sa trial balance. You can remember the last figures na na-added sa atong ledger, which are this, na naka-green. We will simply getting them, i-copy lang nato na siya, then pasting them dito sa trial balance. So let's start with cash. Cash has a balance of 84,350. So what I normally do when I use Excel, it's just, ako na lang siyang i-equals na. Para if na ay mga changes, dali na lang. So ayan. Accounts receivable. And by the way, kung unsay balance niya dito sa ledger, maupod ang iyang balance dito sa trial balance. So for example, cash have a debit balance. May debit balance, 84,350. So make sure that you are also putting the balance of the cash in the debit side. So, accounts receivable, debit ko na siya. So, si accounts receivable. Okay, 14,000. Then supplies, 9,000. Equipment, we have 50,000. Funds payable, that's a credit. Funds payable, we have 28,000. Notes payable, 15, credit. Salaries payable, 47, credit. Then capital, that's also a credit. We have here 100,000. Then drawing is a debit. So it actually follows po sa itong tulo na ako sa inyo before ng dealer. Naro, notes. So it also follows here. So if it's an asset, expense, and drawing, it's on the debit side in the trial balance. As well as for the liabilities, equity in the revenue or income, naapo na siya sa credit side. Okay. Saan na tayo? Service revenue, that's a credit. Service revenue. Ayan, 32. Then rent expense, that's a debit since that's an expense. Rent. Utilities expense. Salaries and wages, that's also an expense. And then supplies expense, our last one. So, hopefully, okay, hopefully balance ni sila. Dapat mag-balance na i-react sa ato ang unadjusted trial balance. So, punta lang na ito. Okay. Yan. Okay, so far, ay salamat balance. Kita mo allowance sa ito ang discussion. So, basically, that's it for the posting and then the trial balance. So, journal entries, ayan. The account, ito, the accounts, posting or ledger, whatever you call it. And then transfer it to the trial balance. So normally, these 3 chapters covers prelim, okay, sa mga college. So that's it. That's it. If you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments or reach me out sa akong Facebook page. You can just search Jesse-Roy Alcaraz. I'm also available in Threads, TikTok, and X. The same lang, JR. You can search me at JR Alcaraz. Okay, so I guess that's it. That's it. And for our next lesson next time, we'll be going over sa adjustments. So be excited, be prepared, and see you next time. Bye-bye.